Welcome everybody to this very first and special episode of Emporix Insights, where we ask the question, what's next for grocery e-commerce? My name is Frank Smith and I'm CEO of Context Public Relations. We're a technology PR company. Today, I'm joined by three heavyweights of the e-commerce sector, and together we'll be taking a look at digital transformation in the grocery industry and asking what it takes to win in the competitive and fast-moving world of e-grocery. With me, I have the man behind one of the very first European tech unicorns, visionary, investor, entrepreneur and thought leader, Mr. Carsten Thoma.
Hello.
Also have the digital transformation and e-commerce lead at the hugely popular Austrian grocery chain MPREIS, which is Ulrich Theilmann. Hello, Ulrich. And last but not least, we have founder and CEO of Headless Commerce Software Specialists on our host today, Emporix. That's Eberhardt.
Hi there. Hello.
So I would like to start by asking Ulrich the first question. So I'm sorry, your first victim. MPREIS has been running grocery delivery services for a number of years now, and you're currently in charge of relaunching its online platform. I wondered if you could talk us through some of the fresh thinking that has led to this and your overall strategy.
Yeah, we started some years ago. I joined MPREIS 1.5 years ago, and we had a look at the digital landscape what we have there, and what we saw that we have a lot of concerning the marketing, a lot of experience-driven marketing, and it was a really old e-commerce solution. So we decided to build a new architecture to be more flexible in the future, and that's how we started the project. We really want to grow in this area. At the beginning, it was more a test, and now we found a partner where we can set the whole system on a good foundation, and then building up on this. And we're happy to work with Emporix.
When you talk omnichannel with MPREIS, what does that mean to you?
What we do right now is we have around 250 stores in Austria, and of course most of the business is still in the stores. What we're trying to do now is bringing together those two distribution channels. For example, what we launched in summer was like a digital shopping list, where it doesn't matter if you buy online or you go into the store. The basic need of the customer is that he wants to buy something, and he doesn't have to make up his mind how and where he wants to buy it. He has it on the list. He can manage his inventory. Basically, like if he's working, he can go to a store nearby, or during the night he can purchase the goods online. And this is for me an omnichannel approach that we deliver the customer the service no matter where, via what distribution channel.
Is this about targeting new types of customers, maybe younger customers?
What we see is the typical customer that is buying online on MPREIS is not younger. It's like it's more families. I think it's more a convenience factor. Mm-hmm. And the younger, I wouldn't say so. No, it's more like a convenience customer. Yeah.
Have there been any other benefits from the digital storefront in terms of potential cost savings, for example?
Of course, with the digital storefront, the first time we were able to show the whole assortment, and before it was just a marketing side where we could talk about our values, about our nice architecture and stuff like that. But what is the customer searching for? Our products and what products are on sale and stuff like that. And this we could do with what we call digital storefront that we launched in summer. And now we can approach with that via digital channel a lot of customers. Before we only did print, and we know from research that maximum 50% is getting our print marketing. We don't know how many throw it away. I think 0%. No, but 50%. Yeah, 50% is getting it, and the other 50 we didn't reach before. And with the digital storefront, we have the opportunity now and to reactivate them again and again. And this is at the beginning no cost saving because it's an additional channel. But I think over the time, print in that extent will phase out.
So saving money and saving the planet and helping your customers. All good.
Yeah, soon.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Carsten, if I can turn to you now.
Sure.
You've been successfully building and investing in technology companies for quite a long time, since the late 90s now, the early days of the internet. How do you think the grocery sector is progressing in terms of its adoption of digital transformation? And secondarily, how would you compare it to other sectors that you've been involved in?
That's a good question. Grocery is probably very similar to other industries where a few years ago we would have not expected fast progression on digital transformation, right? It's also, I think, a good example what happens if you leave a gap behind or a gap open that others can attack, right? And this industry, for sure, the incumbents didn't move fast enough to protect itself from that type of disruption. And I remember when I used Instacart for the first time in Palo Alto, it was years ago, and I gotta admit it was a fairly rudimentary service back then. I was like, "Oh, what is that?" I mean, the stuff arrived at one point, right, in the hotel, but it was by far not a great user experience. But it actually, it did serve a specific purpose, and it was geared towards what was going on in the Bay Area back then, and geared towards the gig economy. And we know the next steps, right? Next step was it showed up in more metropolitan areas. It took advantage of areas where there was on one side a lot of cheap labor, on the other side a lot of capital, and soon enough they're going to take the next two steps. We have seen this in other industries as well, right? I remember those times when we were probably smiling a little bit about Mercedes taking a stake in Tesla, and then they sold it happily back then. Not happy anymore. And I also seem to remember that there were a lot of joint ventures going between the old school car industry and Tesla when it came to battery factories. But before they got serious, they all sold their stakes. So it's definitely something that will take further steps. I also believe that the good news is, compared to other industries, there's still enough time to prepare for that and not miss that opportunity.
And where do you see technology playing a part? I know that's a big question, but what particular technologies or changes in technology are needed to accelerate the growth of the e-grocery sector?
For sure, you don't need, I don't know, what's Instacart's funding now? 800 million, you don't need that. That's the good news.
That's very good news.
There are robust platforms if you focus on the right things. Quality of your product data. Definitely definitely the quality of the process, how you pick the products, how you integrate into the last mile, how you stay competitive on who does what, right? And last but not least, also from a maintenance perspective, these things got more affordable. These are not proprietary solutions that Fresh Direct had to build in the early days in New York and other of those companies. I think it's still complex. Grocery is an advanced industry, there's no doubt, but also we're in the 4th generation of cloud software now, and we can deliver solutions that bring value to the customer and the consumer in terms of the quality of your products that you can deliver in your cart, the delivery window, better customer engagement. It's possible now. Definitely progressed over the past 10 years.
Going back to you, Ulrich, you've enjoyed a lot of success in digital transformation in other sectors, such as fashion and luxury brands. What lessons did you take from those sectors into the grocery market? And secondly, what were the major differences?
Yeah, with my experience in fashion and in luxury, that was good, but I knew that this won't help me a lot in the grocery sector. So what we started and what we were really doing at the beginning were user labs, where we talk to the customer and try to understand their basic needs. And what I learned before, like the really hard way, is to communicate much better also inside the company what you're building there and the change what gonna happen, and that it's not just a project, an e-commerce project, that this will change also a lot of other processes, workflows in other departments, like in marketing or working together with IT or the buying department, category management. And in the past, I didn't have so much focus on that. And now we talk much more about these topics, because this is a really slow process to get the change also in the head. The technology part is I think a quick one, but the change in the heads takes much more time.
The actual products cause a problem as well, don't they? In that, a pair of trainers is not as complicated as the mix of products you've got in grocery and the complicated supply chains.
Of course, that's why grocery is, I think, in the timeline really at the end of the e-commerce journey. I think it's one of the most complex supply chains. With the cooling and with bottles and everything. And the first thing what I learned when I started in online grocery was like, at the end you don't know what your basket is costing. You know it when it's picked, and this is a big difference to other e-commerce industries. And it's a really complex supply chain. And
okay. Thanks, Ulrich. If we could build on that, over to you now, Eberhardt. Microphone. Sure. Thank you. It's common. This is the phrase of the year. Turn your microphone on. Could you provide us with some more insight into the special role that software plays in online grocery experience that sort of deals with some of the complexities and the differences that Ulrich was talking about?
Yeah, sure. And I think Ulrich gave the right keywords. Typically, when you look at an e-commerce scenario, typically you assume there's a big warehouse and you ship from that warehouse all over the continent. That's what many companies do. And that is also reflected in the software that you will find on the market, because most of the e-commerce software ends exactly when they have taken the order, because they assume there is another system that takes on the order, like a order fulfillment system or like a warehouse management system. And that's actually where the process starts in grocery, because in grocery, things work differently. You cannot ship fresh, perishable products or bulky products for your weekly shopping over long distances, right? That's why you have to work in a local context. You have to pick locally, you have to pack locally, and you have to deliver locally. Ulrich mentioned the cold chain, which can be a challenge. You have sensitive products like bananas, very sensitive product. You touch it once or you give pressure, it gets a black stain. Nobody wants to have bananas with black stains. And there's actually another argument why you should run your grocery business in a local manner, which is trust. So food is probably the most sensitive trust product. So you want to know where your food comes from.
Increasingly these days, provenance is a big issue, isn't it?
Definitely,
yeah.
Definitely, right? You want to have, you want to know where it comes from. Ideally, you know even the grocer, your local grocery store. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a great advantage for MPREIS, right? It's a trusted brand. It's all over the place in the Austrian areas where MPREIS is operating. And that should not be underestimated. And that's why you need with the software, of course, you need to support this end-to-end process from taking the order, picking in store, which has to be very efficient. Otherwise, your bottom line will not look very nice. And there's a number of aspects, I could go on for hours, and with respect to the time, I will not, but you could talk about weight articles, ordering by weight, or at least you have the price based on weight. You have product deposits, product substitutes, because you cannot have everything that is fresh available all of the time. And then you want to deliver at a desired time. There's really a lot of details you have to consider. You have to get the whole thing working.
And specifically, you're into headless commerce. What's the specific benefit of headless? Maybe explain what headless commerce is to those people who don't know.
Yeah. So first of all, headless commerce is quite a simple concept, because you separate the front end, so the user experience, from the back end, which is the business logic of the software and the storage of data, to put it very simple. And a lot of software companies claim to be headless, but the full benefits come only into play if you have a cloud-native underlying software architecture.
Okay, you confused me again. Cloud-native. Explain.
Yeah, a lot of buzzwords. So basically, cloud-native means your software is based, it's not a big monolith, not a big piece of software, it's many small pieces of software, often referred to as microservices. Mm-hmm. And these microservices are really independent pieces of software, and they have an API where you can connect to. And this brings really the benefits, because thanks to these APIs, you can create any kind of touch points to your customers, and you can connect to these APIs in a very consistent way. So
by touch points, what do you mean by touch points?
So a touch point could be a website, it could be a mobile app, it could be a voice system, it could be a chat system, it could be a text system. And from an IT perspective, if you can connect these APIs in a consistent way, it's very much cheaper than you have to build individual software applications for each of these touch points. Okay. And so that's the customer-facing side. When you look at big companies like MPREIS, it's equally important how you connect the existing systems, like the ERP system, point of sale systems, product databases, which is a big topic, product data and product pictures with all the legislation, big topic in grocery. So And that's why APIs are so important. And then now, typically, you know, as a business person, you don't want to even think of the plumbing, but microservices are extremely important because it really speeds up your software development process. Yeah, it's very simple.
Can you give us an example of that?
Let me try to
very quickly
to paint a very quick picture.
1 minute.
You have a big piece of software. You change something, right?
Yeah.
You have to test the whole thing again and again and again, and you don't want to break anything. So that's why you don't release that often. You release once a year or twice a year. If you have small pieces of software, you just test these little pieces of software. It's very quick, and you can deploy new features very frequently. We talk about weeks or days or even hours. You can deploy without interrupting the system. And that's a huge benefit, especially in a context that is not that mature, where you want to try out things, where you want to be agile. That's why technology does count.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, because so there's no interruption to service. People can continue shopping, and I can keep buying my beautiful bananas
with black stains,
with no stains. Absolutely. Okay. Before we move on to the questions, there's 1 or 2 questions come through. If I could just ask in 2 minutes, preferably a little bit less, for each of you, how do you see online grocery continuing the growth curve that we've seen over the last 10 months of the pandemic? And briefly, what will it take to win? Now, I'm going to start with you, Eberhardt.
Online grocery has come to stay. I think this is very clear, and it will not go back again after the pandemic to the level it was before. So I believe grocers have to take that really seriously. When you remember the discussions we had in the bookstore market 15 years ago and see what happened, we don't want to have the same situation in the grocery business. And so I have been now in the e-grocery business for more than 10 years, and I learned that it really, you have to look at the details. There's a lot of details you have to get right to win and retain happy customers and to operate at a profit.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Eberhardt. Ulrich, your final take on what it takes to win?
Yeah, where we invested a lot was our user experience. This is a big value of MPREIS, or what is MPREIS known for the architecture, and we wanted to adapt that to the digital space as well. And yeah, of course, what we saw after the first lockdown, after the first peak, of course we had a growing customer base, but the question is how can we get them to loyal customers after the peak? And we invested a lot also in the marketing. So we built a customer data platform where we can really work on the retention marketing, and this helped a lot to even take the growth of the peak in the second part. And yeah, this helped a lot. But yeah, it drove digital transformation at MPREIS a lot, the pandemic, and I hope that we can do much more now also on our side to work there faster internally.
I'm glad to see it's not only about software, that you're still going to do some marketing. That's comforting for someone in the business. Okay, and finally, Carsten, your final 2 minutes on what you think it will take to win and build on this trend to online groceries.
The quality of the delivery is one important factor. Obviously, there's a certain control and satisfaction if you go to the store yourself, right, and pick the stuff. Sure. But if the quality is spot on, that goes along with the trust topic, right? And also with the requirement that the business predominantly has to be local. The reliability when it comes to the delivery window is also super important. What is really convenient, grocery shopping, for most people that want to use it through a commerce interface, is not something that they do for hours and hours and hours. It's a convenience.
Yeah.
So there needs to be optionality and reliability in how you get your goods delivered, and it has to be on time and within the window, and it probably also has to offer flexibility how and where you can receive the goods, either pick up or pick up points or at home. Yeah. These are the three most important factors that it can succeed. And then finally, you need to enable the people, the grocers that do it, to operate with a solution that you can master and that is also broad enough, like Ulrich said, that you also have the opportunity to engage your customer, and probably also provide incremental services to the core grocery service.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, I believe we've got one or two questions already. Okay, I've got a question. Should grocery trust Instacart as a partner, or is it likely to compete with the grocers in the longer term? Who would like to take that one? Eberhardt.
Well, I wouldn't say there's a lot to say on that, right? You can answer that yourself. Why do you want to give away all the data of your customers? Why do you want to give away control over your product catalog and the pricing? Why do you want to give away your customer experience? I mean, what's the point in doing that? I would say it's a bit of a poisoned gift.
I'm guessing you're not a fan.
It sounds tempting. It sounds tempting to do that as a grocer.
Okay.
But I think you want to have your customer experience yourself, and you have to control that. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, where will the business go to? Yeah, it will go online. It will not be 100% online, 0% local. Maybe it will be even 80-20 in 10 years' time. But think of 20% of the business not being in store anymore.
Yeah.
What a massive part that is. Yeah.
Okay. I've got another question here. I think this is probably one for Ulrich. How do you cope with the same-day delivery?
We had it already, but we had to stop it during the first lockdown. We're working on it again. It's possible if you look at Austria. It's not like the perfect setting for same-day delivery because there are not so many really big cities. Mm-hmm. But for example, we had it in Innsbruck, and it works, but only like not in like every valley or a mountain village. Yeah. This is not possible. But we're working on reactivating it. It's an important factor, and when we see like the competition starting in Vienna with 60 minutes and 3 hours, it's quite a challenge. But of course, in Vienna, it's much easier to provide such a service. If you go on the countryside, 60 minutes won't be possible.
Yeah, especially with snow, which I believe you've got a lot of at the moment.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Not here, but yeah.
not where you are, but in Austria, yeah. Okay, and final question before we have to wrap up, really. This could be for, I think maybe for you, Ulrich. What does the grocery shopping experience of the future look like? Maybe one for Carsten as well. I'll let you both have a think about that.
Like, depends how far you look into the future. But for example, the digital shopping list, what we built, or the microservice we are using there, one of the next steps is is an implementation with Alexa or with any kind of assistant. So I think voice commerce will get really interesting in that topic, and I guess it will go more into the direction marketplaces as well. Like you saw that in fashion, they started with their own assortment and then they were opening up. And I think that's going to happen in grocery as well, because when you're driving like several times a week to the neighborhood, why you shouldn't also deliver other goods that you don't have in your assortment, but I don't know, from the local farmer, something that you don't source, or I think that the marketplace approach will be there as well in online grocery.
But to echo Carsten's words, it's going to be about quality and service delivery and customer service, basically.
That's always the basics.
Yeah, whichever way it goes. Yeah. Okay, I think we're running out of time now. I'd just like to really thank, first of all, our panelists, Ulrich, Carsten, and Eberhardt, for their time today. Particularly like to thank our audience for taking time out of your busy day. I hope we gave you some interesting topics for further thought and discussion as you plan your e-grocery business in 2021 and beyond. As I said before, you will be able to get a recording of today's proceedings, which will be emailed to you early next week. We're hoping to make Emporix Insights a regular feature over the coming year. And just to say thank you once again, and hope to see you again on the next web seminar. Thank you very much.